The jungle reclaims empty space with ruthless efficiency. Today, one builder intends to carve a permanent footprint out of the overgrowth. He is looking for a specific topography, a site where natural water flow intersects with stable ground. The humidity here accelerates rot, making location the first critical decision of the build. The initial clearing focuses on established deadwood. Fallen timber across the waterway presents both an obstacle and an opportunity. By removing the decay, he exposes the bedrock and flow lines. The stream itself will become the anchor point for the entire foundation. Clearing the underbrush reveals the actual contours of the land. A wire saw offers precision in tight spaces where a full swing is impossible, its friction generating enough heat to pull through dense, wet wood fibers cleanly. Before any timber can be joined, the cambium layer must go. Stripping the bark is not about aesthetics. Leaving that outer layer intact traps moisture and invites wood-boring insects, which can compromise a load-bearing column in a matter of months. Exposing the pale heartwood ensures the timber will dry evenly, hardening into a resilient structural pillar. Every piece of raw material must be neutralized before it can become part of a lasting frame. Moving dense, saturated timber over uneven terrain is an exercise in applied physics. The builder leverages the logs onto his shoulder, finding the balance point to distribute the immense weight. Beside the stream, the raw lumber is staged for processing. Creating a stable foundation over moving water requires deep, interlocking joinery. He begins carving a saddle notch. This specific cut increases the surface area of the connection, allowing two cylindrical profiles to mate flush without shifting under lateral loads. A machete serves as a broad chisel here, slicing away wedges of wood along the grain. The precision of the notch dictates the integrity of the entire platform. Moisture is a constant threat during the wet season. Shielding the workspace or gear with a simple barrier prevents a sudden downpour from ruining a day of intricate carpentry. With the fine notching complete, the joints are locked into a right angle. To secure the connection permanently, he bores a central channel using a hand auger. This wide-bore drill severs the wood fibers cleanly without splitting the log. A triangular geometry is introduced to the base frame. In structural engineering, The triangle is the only two-dimensional polygon that cannot be deformed without altering the length of its sides. By creating this rigid truss, the builder guarantees the foundation will not rack or twist under the shifting currents of the stream. Every adjustment on the forest floor is calculated to bear the weight of the cabin above. Shifting the assembly into the water introduces immediate challenges. The stream bed is uneven and constantly eroding. By forming an X-brace directly above the current, the structural load is diverted outward to the stable banks. Working over flowing water means constantly fighting gravity and loss of leverage. The massive A-frame logs serve as the primary load-bearing arches. Their angled stance translates downward force into outward pressure, locking the frame against the natural resistance of the terrain. An archway begins to span the waterway, anchored directly to a massive fallen trunk. This deadfall acts as a natural piling, inherently stabilized by years of settling into the mud. To expand the footprint, horizontal stringers must be set across the vertical supports. Working knee-deep in the cold flow saps energy, but it allows the builder to feel the stability of the stream bed beneath his boots. The joints here are completely submerged, meaning they will swell. This natural expansion tightens the connections, making the submerged wood interlock even more firmly over time. He guides a heavy sleeper log into position, locking the parallel frames together. The rushing water now passes cleanly through the lower structure without creating a dam, ensuring a flash flood won't sweep the foundation away. Metal fasteners rust and fail in constant submersion. Instead, the builder secured joints with wooden pegs. Driven tightly into the augured holes, these dowels will swell with the surrounding timber, creating a monolithic structure locked together purely by friction and wood grain. Fine-tuning the leveling requires precise subtractive work. He uses a handsaw to define the boundaries of a new notch, stopping precisely at the depth line. A chisel and mallet then remove the waste wood in clean, rectangular blocks. This stepped joint will cradle the upper decking supports. To reinforce a critical shear point, a heavy spike is driven home. The foundation is now a unified grid. With the substructure anchored, the focus shifts to sourcing heavy timber for the upper deck. A curved pruning saw is designed to cut on the pull stroke, maximizing efficiency and saving the builder's energy when cross-cutting massive trunks. The density of fresh-felled jungle hardwood makes it incredibly heavy, often weighing upwards of 60 pounds per cubic foot. Maneuvering the severed sections requires leveraging the log's own center of mass. By tilting the cylinder onto its edge, he can pivot and roll the sheer weight up the dirt path rather than fighting gravity to carry it. Following the shaping of the raw trunks, a field workstation is essential. A rigid sawhorse elevates the timber, protecting the saw blades from the dirt and aligning the work at an ergonomic height. To transform a round log into a squared beam, the geometry must be mapped perfectly. The builder uses a steel framing square to draft a precise rectangle within the circular face. These pencil marks establish the cut lines for all four sides. If this initial layout is off by even a few degrees, the resulting beam will twist, throwing the entire cabin out of plumb. The square provides a reliable baseline, forcing wild, irregular nature into strict mathematical tolerance. Sawing away the rounded slab is an endurance test. The long, rhythmic strokes utilize the full length of the blade, clearing sawdust efficiently. The teeth sever the longitudinal fibers, slowly revealing a perfectly flat face. Completing the final side removes the last of the soft sapwood. What remains is the dense, stable heartwood core. Squaring the timber by hand demands immense physical discipline, but it yields a dimensionally true beam that will sit flush against the floor joists. A hand plane shears off the rough saw marks. The angled iron blade slices away paper-thin ribbons of wood, closing the pores of the timber. This polished surface sheds water easily and prevents rot. To integrate the beams, relief cuts are sawn to a specific depth. The chisel then acts as a wedge, splitting the waste out along the grain. A perfectly flat trench is left behind, ready to lock into the perpendicular joists. The floorboards require the same meticulous planing as the heavy structural beams. A perfectly smooth deck ensures a comfortable living surface and eliminates rough crevices where moisture and insect larvae tend to settle. The surrounding jungle continues its slow, quiet rhythms, undisturbed by the steady rhythm of the hand plane. With a full stack of planks milled, the materials are carefully ferried into the flowing stream. Wading the heavy lumber through the water corridor eliminates the need to hack a wider access path through the dense underbrush. At the foundation frame, the decking phase begins. Each board is laid perpendicular to the joists, spanning the gaps to distribute living loads evenly across the grid. The builder works methodically across the span, locking a flat, horizontal plane into existence above the current. Iron nails would quickly rust and bleed into the wet environment. Instead, the hand drill bores completely through the deck plank and directly into the underlying joist. Tapered hardwood pegs are then driven into the channels. As the mallet forces the peg downward, the taper wedges against the surrounding fibers, clamping the board to the frame with immense pressure. This friction-fit joinery creates a permanent floor. The final board sits flush. The foundation is complete. A solid, elevated deck standing defiant above the flowing water. With the base secured, the vertical build begins. The steep pitch of an A-frame design sheds heavy rain perfectly, but it requires a tight enclosure to protect the interior. The builder crosscuts siding planks directly on the new deck, turning his finished floor into an elevated workbench. Cladding the steep pitch of the A-frame is an exercise in compounding angles. Each horizontal board must be measured perfectly against the sloping roofline to ensure a weather-tight fit. By pre-drilling the attachment points with an awl, the builder prevents the wide, thin planks from cracking when the wooden pegs are driven home. Wood grain naturally wants to split along its fibrous growth rings, and a clean pilot hole relieves that outward wedge pressure. The heavy siding planks are hauled up and set into place, gradually wrapping the skeletal log frame in a solid wooden shell. Working from the bottom upward allows each successive board to shed water efficiently. The structure is rapidly closing in. Reaching the upper peak demands balance. The highest planks lock the opposing sides of the A-frame together, acting as a ridge board to prevent the walls from bowing outward. Long, continuous boards are used for the side walls to minimize seams. Fewer vertical joints mean fewer opportunities for wind and driving rain to penetrate the living space. A heavy mallet blow sets the wooden peg firmly into the rafter. Securing the enclosure from the inside pulls the exterior planks tight against the frame. He shapes custom pegs to match the diameter of each drilled hole exactly. A loose peg will eventually vibrate out, while an oversized one will split the drywood. Hammering the fasteners from the interior also creates a clean, unblemished surface on the outside, leaving no exposed dowel ends to rot in the rain. Interior roof supports are shaped to bolster the wide-spanning planks. These internal cross ties act as purlins, preventing the long exterior boards from sagging or warping over time. Precision remains critical, even for this hidden internal bracing. The builder scribes a heavy pencil line across the grain, transferring the exact inner dimension to the raw timber. A confident pass with the hand saw drops the piece to the perfect length. The exterior siding demands a flush, airtight fit against the rough log framework. A hand-cranked auger bites into the dense wood, clearing chips efficiently through its spiral flute to create clean pilot holes. Where straight planks meet the uneven bark of the corner posts, the builder wields a machete like a draw knife. He shaves down the hard edge, scribing the board perfectly to match the organic contour of the frame. This meticulous edge matching eliminates gaps that would otherwise funnel drafts inside. Wooden pegs are driven deep to lock the final roof panels down. The cabin's outer shell is completely secure. After hollowing a massive log, the new trough is mounted onto an elevated stand. To convert raw wood into a functional fire pit, it must be completely insulated from heat. The builder packs dense, wet river mud into the cavity. The clay acts as a natural refractory lining. Smoothing the wet mud removes air pockets that could crack under extreme heat. Once baked by the fire, this earthen barrier will prevent the wooden shell from ever igniting. The finished cabin stands sharp against the greenery. Inside the cured fire pit, a handful of dried fibers serves as tinder. The structure is ready to come alive. The elevated deck instantly transforms into a preparation space. Using thick lemongrass stalks as skewers adds structural support and infuses the meat with aromatic citrus oils from the inside out as it cooks. The skewered fillets are laid across a metal grate over the glowing pit. The mud-lined trough performs perfectly, radiating intense heat upward without scorching the wooden stand below. Inside the dark A-frame, the fire provides the only illumination, casting long shadows against the tight plank walls. A light dusting of dry seasoning finishes the meal. The smoke naturally repels insects, making the deck a comfortable refuge in the deep woods. The dense, flaky protein is a direct reward for the grueling labor of the build. Sitting in the safety of the enclosed cabin, the ambient glow of the fire offers profound psychological comfort. The barrier between the wild forest and the human space is fully established. Hydration and equipment maintenance close out the evening. Inside the secure A-frame, the builder organizes his pack by lantern light, protecting his edge tools from the crushing overnight humidity of the jungle. Survival is more than endurance. It's foresight. By morning, the structure proves its worth. The cabin stands unaffected by the damp, heavy forest air, the fire pit having safely burned down to cold ash. The elevated platform over the stream creates a distinct, level sanctuary amid the chaotic, sloping overgrowth of the wild. Daylight reveals the need for exterior refinement. He measures a trim plank against the gable end, aiming to seal the small air gaps near the ridgeline. A wooden pole is notched to act as a custom fascia board, protecting the vulnerable end grain of the roof planks from rot. Lacking a heavy hammer, the flat spine of the machete delivers enough blunt force to drive a nail home. The trim block locks the roof edge securely. Attention turns to the final major vulnerability: the entrance. A heavy cylindrical beam is seated into a flat plank to form the rigid threshold of a custom door. Vertical dowels pin the corners, keeping the rectangular frame perfectly square. Precise crosscuts yield the door panels. The cut boards are laid flat across the sturdy frame, immediately transforming the skeletal rectangle into a solid barricade. A wooden mallet taps the tongue and groove edges tightly together, eliminating light leaks. Driving a final hardwood peg into the corner joints locks the entire assembly. Lifted upright, the door is heavy, rigid, and perfectly dimensioned to seal the cabin off from the jungle. Inside the dim cabin, the door frame is pinned directly into the heavy log walls. The thick pegs ensure the hinges will not sag under the door's immense weight. A custom wooden shutter is adjusted to sit flush within the square window opening. This operable vent allows the builder to control cross breeze and temperature without letting driving rain inside. With the envelope sealed, the focus shifts back to the exterior platform. A heavy vertical post is readied for the edge of the deck, marking the beginning of a protective boundary above the moving water. The machete effortlessly shears off the protruding end of a wooden peg, leaving a smooth, snag-free joint. The deck is now bordered by a sturdy structural rail. Deep saddle notches allow the horizontal rail to cup the vertical posts. Hammering a peg through this intersection creates a rigid lock. A strong railing is critical when living elevated over a slick, rocky stream bed. To combat lateral sway, an outrigger post is plunged directly into the stream bed. Pinning this support into the rocky bottom arrests any vibration moving across the wide wooden deck. Access to the water is essential. Broad planks are pegged onto angled stringers, creating a permanent set of stairs. The cabin is now directly connected to its primary resource. With the architecture finished, the focus shifts to sustenance. Climbing into the dense upper canopy grants access to wild starfruit. Foraging fresh, high water content fruit provides essential sugars and vitamins that the stream cannot offer. And discarded aluminum can is repurposed into a makeshift fishing reel. By threading monofilament line through a clean hole in the concave base, the builder creates a smooth, friction-free spool for casting into the current. River snails are gathered from the shallows. The flat of the machete shatters the thick shell against a stone anvil, exposing the dense meat inside. Snails provide an ideal, tough bait that won't easily wash off the hook in the rushing water. The trap is set. the tension on the line breaks the surface. The makeshift tackle has succeeded in the fading light. Carrying the catch back toward the glowing fire pit, the ecosystem provides a direct return on the day's effort. A dark, heavy catfish is hauled onto the wooden deck. Its thick skin and high fat content make it a perfect calorie source for survival living. Boiling the fish in a heavy iron pot extracts every nutrient into a rich broth. The mud-lined fire pit sustains a slow, steady boil. Hot water from the kettle sterilizes the drinking cup, preventing waterborne illness in the deep woods. The warm firelight pushes back the dark. The combination of wild protein and fresh starfruit replenishes the massive energy deficit of manual construction. Sitting on a hand-hewn floor, the builder rests in a microenvironment entirely of his own making. From above, the cabin is a beacon of order in the untamed forest. The heavy door swings shut, sealing the interior against the night. In the end, structure, landscape, and daily routine operate as one system. What was once a tangled creek bank is now a place that produces, protects, and sustains itself.